Well, welcome everyone. I am really excited to have you join Carol and me today and to talk about resistance bands, posture, and osteoporosis. So I'd like to take a moment and introduce Carol. Can everybody hear me? Yes, I'm assuming yes. All right. Can everybody hear me before I get started and introduce Carol? Yes. Okay, perfect. Awesome. I'd like to take a moment and introduce Carol. Carol is the founder of Recovery Fitness Exercise Program. She's also an award-winning specialist and a nationally recognized presenter and consultant. She has a book called Exercises for Cancer Survivors, and she's created several continuing education programs in partnership with the National Federation of Professional Trainers. She's also been published in numerous magazines, newsletters, blogs, and medical journals. Working with cancer survivors is incredibly personal for Carol. And as she worked with many of them, she came to realize that many of them also developed bone loss. Carol's actually created several classes that are specifically for osteoporosis to meet this need. Carol, I am so excited to have you with us today. Would you be willing to share how you started working in this space?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be doing this with you. So I got involved in the whole medical fitness space because sadly, so many of my family members had cancer, osteoporosis, and other medical issues. And I saw through the years how exercise really helped them in so many aspects of their life: less pain, more energy, just a whole better quality of life. So then I worked with several physicians to develop programs to help people with these issues. So it started off with the Recovery Fitness Cancer Exercise Program, which is now being offered in various hospitals and facilities in New Jersey. And as you said, we then realized what a connection there was between some of the medications cancer survivors were taking and osteoporosis, that we really zoomed in on osteoporosis because exercise can so clearly help with bone density. So that, in a nutshell, is how I got involved in this area.
We're really grateful that you did. It's an incredible thing to think about having loved ones yourself personally, that this was a major issue for. And the medications definitely play a part in what happens. And exercise is awesome for helping with bone loss.
Really.
Um, so moving into our topic today, I saw before we got going, Carol was showing me her resistance bands. Could you please talk to us about different kinds of resistance bands and how they can be used to help with posture and osteoporosis?
Yes. So, as you know, with osteoporosis, how important it is to do resistance training. And there's a lot of ways of doing resistance training. It can be through your own body weight, it can be through dumbbells, hand weights, or resistance bands, which I'll be working with you today on. Resistance bands are wonderful to use because, first of all, you can take them with you anywhere, which is great. You know, so many times people are out of town on vacation, and as we know, it's so important to be consistent with our exercise. So this way you can take these, put it in your luggage, in your pocketbook, and get your exercise in no matter where you are. And, given how important posture is, resistance bands can really help strengthen those postural muscles. Posture is something we're all focusing in on now. We know that bad posture leads to early arthritis, neck pain. Our head is so heavy, So if we actually lean forward in kyphosis, that will affect the spine. Leaning forward in bad posture or kyphosis also causes the shoulders to come forward and the lung capacity decreases. So there's just so many reasons to improve our posture, and it can so easily be done with resistance bands. There are so many types of bands. So for example, we use the flat band. A lot of you probably use these in physical therapy. They come in all different strengths. So it's important to, to have a variety of bands, because you would use different bands for different muscle groups. You would start off with a very light resistance band if you're a beginner exerciser or new to resistance training. And then maybe graduate to one that might be a little thicker, a little heavier resistance. So these are flat bands and wonderful for resistance training and also for flexibility. There are other bands as well. The other type of band that we use is called
I think we need to come back and do flexibility with us.
I'd be happy to do that. The other type that I recommend that people think about using are tubing with handles. First of all, they're very comfortable to use, especially if you get the really cushiony kind. And if you have arthritis or any type of hand issue, it's great to have something that's really comfortable to hold on to. So these bands also come in different resistances. So for example, this one is a heavy duty one. It's really difficult to pull apart. There are some that are medium, which is good just for a nice intermediate exerciser. And then if you're just new to exercise, you might want to use a very light one with, really doesn't give you too much resistance, but it's always good to start slowly and progress slowly. So we use the flat bands, the tubing, and lastly, we also use these little loop bands or mini bands. A lot of you might be familiar with seeing these on the legs, which are a great way of strengthening the lower body. But when used for the upper body, you can really hit some of the important posture muscles that you can't really get to sometimes with more traditional exercises or hand weights. So those are the bands that we typically use for posture improvement.
I'm really curious to see some examples of how you use the different kinds of bands. I would say I'm not very familiar with flat bands. I have some like the ones that you just showed that go around your legs. Um, but I don't have flat bands. This is a new concept for me. I'm really familiar with using my own body weight with my yoga background, but this is really new, and I'm really excited to to see what you have to say. Do you have any demonstrations, things you can show us?
I'm very happy to show you some of the really easy things that you can do at any time, any place by using resistance equipment. So since I have this in my hand, one example of a posture exercise is just to keep this around the hands like this, palms facing each other. And it's good to start with 90 degrees from your upper arm to lower arm. You then pull this apart and go up and down very, very slowly. So you would want to pull the band apart, but when you're doing this, you want to feel like you're pulling the band apart with the shoulders and the upper back area. So it's very easy to kind of just think about pulling this apart with your hands. But even though your arms are moving up and down, The work is taking place in the upper back and the shoulders. And if you do this
Really feel that.
10 repetitions and you really feel like you're pushing your shoulders back, you can really feel the fatigue. So one example of a posture exercise that we do with the loop band. Now with the flat band, there are hundreds of posture exercises. One of the most common ones is the pull apart, where we have the arms straight out, and you can make this as hard or as easy as you want to. So for example, if you're new to exercise, give yourself a lot of slack. So when you pull apart, it's not too difficult. Of course, those of you who are stronger or very experienced, you would maybe choke up, so it's a little harder to pull it apart. What you want to do on the pull apart, some people think, okay, I'm doing this, and it kind of looks right, but you want to feel like you're bringing your arm back enough that the shoulder blades or the scapula come together. You get a little bit of scapular retraction. So we just pull apart and together. And again, you can do this any place, anytime. And these bands are not expensive. So it can really be, it's very budget friendly equipment. Now, besides a pull apart going like that, pulling apart on the diagonal is an excellent way of strengthening our postural muscles. With posture, your goal is to strengthen your upper back muscles and make sure that the pectorals, that the chest muscles and the front of the shoulders stay loose. Because once this area gets very tight, if you don't do your flexibility work, the shoulders start to come in. So we want to keep the back strong so we can keep the shoulders where they belong. So doing the pull apart on the diagonal is very helpful.
I don't have the flat one, so I'm kind of like trying it out, going.
Right, and with that band, it's hard because I can see it's a thicker resistance. Okay,
But
of
I
course
can
you
feel it.
want.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's very good for strength training and or resistance training, which has been proven to be very effective. So for those of us that don't like hand weights or dumbbells for whatever reason, you can get an excellent resistance workout with the resistance equipment. Another exercise that you can do very easily with your flat band looks like this. We keep the arms close to the body, palms facing the ceiling, and we pull apart like this. Now, again, we want to make sure that we're not just doing a wrist flick. We want to feel that we're taking the shoulders and bringing them back, almost thinking about reversing the tendency of the shoulder to go forward. Okay, so this would be another exercise that can be done very easily. What we do a lot of times in our program is add some lower body work to the upper body just to save time, kind of do some compound exercises. So should I show you a few things with the tubing, with the handles?
Love it. That would be great.
Okay. So tubing with handles. What we like to do with this is find an anchor point wherever you may be exercising. It could be a pole in a basement, something that you can wrap this around and pull. For today's purposes, though, I'm just going to put this around my front foot, which is fine. I'm anchoring it like that. It's under my front foot. I'm doing the hip hinge, which we know is the way we need to move to keep our spine straight with osteoporosis. And we pull and release. So in effect, this is your row, which you might do with your hand weights. If you feel you're not getting enough resistance, you can choke up on this. And that's why it's important to have several resistance bands, light, medium, and heavy.
That's really an interesting way to go about doing the row and totally osteoporosis safe. It's accessible even if you don't get down to the floor, if you're not pulling something using machines at the gym. This is still so accessible.
It is. And for those of us, you can be recovering from an injury, or need to exercise from a seated position. You can use these, very easily. You would just, again, wrap it around your foot or wrap it around a pole in your house and do the pull. What I always recommend is to try to do that exercise from different positions, different anchor points. So you can do the low one, which I just did. I anchored it on my foot. Maybe just something that would be chest level. So it would be a direct straight pull, or something high above you and pull down like this, which can be very similar to a lat pull down to strengthen those important upper back muscles.
That's incredible. It's really amazing. I love that resistance bands can so easily just slip into your suitcase. So if you go away just for the weekend or something else, you still have them with you. It
Right.
makes it
And it's so important. And for people at the office, a lot of the people that I've been working with actually take this to work during their lunch break or when no one's looking, if they have an office, they are able to get a good amount of strength training in. And it's very, very, very effective. You can really prevent poor posture. And if your posture is not what you'd like it to be, it can be improved. But as I always say, it's the other 23 hours in the day which are very important too. You want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're sitting with good posture, really being aware of it and training yourself to have your ears right over your shoulders.
yes, ears right over your shoulders. I think that's a great cue. I'm starting to see questions coming in. Um, One of the questions is I go to the gym 3 times a week, and I'm wondering what exercises are safe to do at the gym. Do you have thoughts on that? Ways to improve posture?
Right, right, right. Yeah. So what, usually in most gyms, actually, they always do have a variety of resistance bands. So you can always, use those. In a gym though, if you're taking any classes, and if you do have a medical issue, osteoporosis or something else, make sure you go up to your instructor, let them know to make the right modifications for you. Most of the machines in a gym are, a lot are safe if used properly. But you want to make sure that you're not doing any of the exercises in forward flexion. Sometimes it's very easy, let's say, on some type of a row machine, to be rounding the back while you're sitting. So you need to be very aware of just keeping a nice straight spine. You also should be aware of some specifics. Everyone has unique issues. So you should be, working, with your health coach or physical therapist or doctor to know specifically some of the moves that might not be appropriate for you.
Yes. So when you use the term forward flexion, just to clarify, that you're talking about anything that causes your spine to round.
Exactly. And, so we have to really make sure in anything that we do to keep our spine straight. So that's why, some of our basic moves are just our hip hinge, where we keep the spine very straight. And it's important to really train yourself to move like that. So for example, if you need to lift something, you lift with a straight spine from head to tailbone. You don't want to let your head hang. Look how rounded my back is. And if I come up, whoa, that is not going to be good, even for someone who doesn't have osteoporosis. So you want to learn to do whatever you're doing in your activities of daily life in that position. Also at the gym or whatever you're doing, extreme twisting is contraindicated. But keep in mind, we're talking about some major twisting. Sometimes people hear about, I can't twist, and they're afraid to even move 2 inches side to side, and they kind of walk around stiff and like a robot. So again, you have to have this discussion, with your health coach, your trainer, your physical therapist, whoever you're working with osteoporosis. So you know exactly to, your situation. Every diagnosis is very different. Every bone density score means something else to different people. So, for most people, a little movement side to side is going to be perfectly fine. And you don't want to walk around stiff, but nothing extreme. You would not do like a 180
Yeah.
degree twist.
I know in yoga, one of the things that we do that's really important would be small back bends. But again, it's not going to be an extreme movement. There's a difference between, say, a small cobra and wheel. So
Right.
looking at the magnitude of the movement, and
Yeah,
I think recognizing that moderate, moving slowly, and listening to your body, that there are big differences.
exactly.
There are other questions that are coming in. There's another one that says, if no bands, oh, wait a minute, I've got a couple of them about no bands. If no bands, is putting hands on the wall enough for strengthening the upper arms? Is using your own body weight at the wall enough leverage?
Oh, I think the person might be referring to hands on the wall for a wall push-up, I'm thinking. Wall push-ups are excellent. So I recommend people do the wall push-up. A lot of women have trouble, with the upper body strength, and even sometimes a modified on wall four push-up on all fours is hard, or if you have a bad knee. Wall push-ups are excellent. You can modify them by going close to the wall. As you get stronger, you stand away from the wall and you get more of your body weight in. I don't know, if they were thinking about posture exercises without the resistance bands. You don't necessarily need to use resistance bands for posture, but it's just another way to get the job done. There's a lot of excellent body weight and flexibility moves, which will be very helpful as well.
I think this is a wonderful thing to keep in mind, that there are different ways of getting the weight bearing exercise, but using resistance bands is a wonderful way to do it. I really found myself thinking a lot about travel and thinking, it's really hard to pack your yoga mat in your suitcase, especially if you're getting on a plane. They just don't fit very well. But you can slip something like this in really easily. And so, for somebody like me that's really used to using their own body weight to do the resistance training, slipping something like this into my suitcase instead of a mat, that sounds like a fabulous idea. It's just so little, it's so easy to take with you, and it makes it so that it's accessible. Um, I'm getting other questions that are coming in. Someone has osteoporosis in their hips and is afraid of weight. And then it says they let me jump too. Jumping is a question that I get really regularly, and whether or not jumping is appropriate. And then someone's wondering about the proper form for the mentioned exercise. So, where you're talking about head over shoulders and looking at the proper form, if someone goes into the gym and they were to use machines or to do something else, is there, besides keeping their back straight, is there a place that they should have heads? Is there positioning that people should be aware of that's
Yeah.
specific for safe movement?
And the machines are very, very tricky because a lot of them are calibrated for larger men. And, in fitness, the trend now actually is just to be using hand weights and bands and your own body weight because it's more realistic to our everyday lives. It's called functional fitness. We want to be using our body the way we do in our everyday life. We never, why, go around, we never really, push in and out like that or sit down and bend and straighten the leg. Whereas we do a squat because we need to sit down and stand up. We need to be able to do that. So, if you're going to a gym, you're using the machines, the best thing, because it's a little different for everyone, you really need to work, if you're new to this, with a professional to just show you how each machine should be set up. And going back to, jumping, the reason there's such a focus on jumping is because there was a study out of Australia, boy, a number of years ago already, which indicated how important impact exercise is. So again, you do, if you can jump, that's great, but everyone is different. The degree of osteoporosis, your fitness level, your age, other issues that you might have all come into play to know if that's appropriate for you. Again, you need to work with a professional to kind of put that whole picture together to see if it would be right for you.
So I think you're bringing up a really important point in looking at exercise for osteoporosis. There's so much information out there, and it's hard to know whether or not an exercise is right for your particular body. And some of them are appropriate. Not all exercises are going to be appropriate for every person. And it's important to listen to your body, to work with someone that's a professional who knows how to work with osteoporosis and to find the exercises that are right for your body. Not just, oh, these are osteoporosis safe exercises, so I'll go and do those, but to find the ones that work in your body to make it personal. I
Exactly.
really, really like.
Yes, you don't really, a lot of times, someone knows they have osteoporosis, they might be in physical therapy, they'll go through the same 7 exercises, every week. And that's great. Any movement is better than no movement, but we use our body in so many different ways, different planes of motion, that we want to be strong in every way we move our body. So it's so important to have a variety of exercises. And then again, you might have your diagnosis of osteoporosis, but maybe we don't really, a lot of us don't have more information than that DEXA scan. Maybe your quality of bones are good, which would allow you to do more than you think you should. So it's not a black and white situation. Everyone is very different. So it's a little tricky. You just can't give one size fits all type of answer.
No, I think it's really important to do that. There's another question that's come in. Any exercise for lower back? Also, can resistance bands replace leg presses?
Hmm. Okay, so I mean, there are so many lower back exercises. We do many of them. A lot of them are ones most of your listeners probably know, just something like that bird dog, quadruped, but there are so many others. I won't go into those just because, we're talking about mostly upper body posture today. What was the other part of that question?
The other one was Can resistance bands replace leg presses?
Hmm. Um, Resistance bands for the low, again, I won't go into detail because now we're talking about the lower, the lower body, but everything is connected. The resistance bands would not necessarily replace them, but what would replace them would be doing a squat, and your closest thing would be to stand on a very, very thick resistance band and just hold the band by the side and just hold on to the band. So when you squat, which is basically a leg press, you would get the extra resistance of the tubing. With leg presses, though, if you're going very heavy at a gym, you have to be careful. It's not my favorite exercise at a certain age, because as you extend your legs out, sometimes there is some pressure into the lower back. I would rather have someone do squats holding on to hand weights or using a resistance band.
I've got another lower body question. We're going to have to come back and do this again, I think. This one
Right.
is asking, are there ways that that resistance bands can be used to strengthen hips?
Absolutely. That's, and again, I won't go into detail because that's a whole nother
Another
segment.
day.
What we use for our hip strengthening is the loop band. And your goal on any osteoporosis exercise is you want to do an exercise where the muscle tugs on the bone, which stimulates the bone to get denser. So by using this right above the knees on a sideline position down on the mat, or it can be done standing also. Again, there are hundreds of exercises that we do to strengthen the hip area with this band, and also with the flat band.
It's really fascinating. Um, I'm thinking that there are many of the people in my audience are not able to get down to the floor, and there are both knee and hip related issues. But a lot of these exercises, I mean, if you were to lay down, you could lay down in your bed and use a resistance band and do some of these same exercises. And it opens up so many possibilities of things. I don't know that we usually think about, hey, I can get weight bearing exercise while laying down in bed. But what you're talking about, I can see it, and I can see the open door and possibility for it happening, and it's an exciting possibility.
Yeah, so yeah, there's no more excuses not to be active. You can do it in a chair, in bed, and but again, whatever you do, start slowly, progress so slowly. You don't want to just jump into a new exercise very intensely, then you'll be too sore the next day. Go into everything slowly and easily, and go through the exercises slowly as well. The results are better when we just kind of, take our time, really feel the muscles working, the muscles engaging, as opposed to rushing through it. And when you go slowly and carefully, it's effective and decreases any risk of problem. You can kind of catch something before you go into a move to if you go into it quickly, you might just, like, let's say your knee isn't so good, and you go down quickly, go into your squat slowly. So right when maybe you feel a little achy, you stop right there and come back up.
I love that process of listening to your body, moving slowly, realizing, okay, this is the right spot for me. And again, making the exercise really personal.
Yes, yes. And one other thing I should add, I had mentioned that you can use a high attachment to do rows and many other exercises. If you don't have something where you're exercising to attach it to, there are these door attachments I don't have it with me. They're just small little things which you would loop your band through and you put it right in between, where the door meets the wall. Make sure it's nice and secure, especially if you're really pulling down on it. You don't want your door to fall off. But those door attachments, will allow you to do things from a high anchor point.
Yes. Carol, thank you so much for doing this with us today. I'm wondering, can you share with people how they can find you, your website, your YouTube channel? How can people connect with you?
Sure. Many ways. My website is Carol Michaels Fitness. That's the same name of my YouTube channel, Carol Michaels Fitness. And I'm also, very happy to answer any questions that come up. You might think about what we went over today, and there's always something that comes up in the middle of the night. And you can always reach me by email, which is caroljmichaels@gmail.com.
caroljmichaels@gmail.com. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to end our live. Oh, I'm seeing thank yous coming in too. Other people are saying thank you, Carol.
My pleasure. Thank you
I'm
for
going
having
to
me.